Good evening, everybody. I'm Grim Reaper, and as you'll notice tonight, Cynical Squid is not here, but with me as always is
PerryThePig. Hello.
And we've got Jay the Product and also Epic Builds or Dread from Epic Builds with us again tonight. Thank you guys for being on the podcast. How's everybody doing so far?
Pretty good.
A-okay. I need to comment on this. I just finished participating in the Twitch rival event for Path of Exile Royale. We were gonna start this podcast 1 hour earlier, but it's Twitch Rivals' fault. It's not my fault that we're 1 hour delayed. So it's fine. Everything's fine. Dread, how you doing?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I didn't even know I was going to be on today, but you know what? Why not?
Well, I'm glad that you were lurking in Discord. We can just kind of yoink you in. I know that for the topic of conversation that we're going to try to start out with, you and Jay, I think you guys talk about this all the time, it sounds like.
What,
we
dodge
talk about
potion?
a lot of shit.
Yeah.
All the
Not
time,
dodge
honestly.
potion specifically.
We're always chatting shit about something or other.
So what
basically.
is it? Give me the outline. What's your introduction for the topic of conversation today?
I want to talk about protections. Everything. Resistances, armor, dodge, endurance, ward, block, glancing blows, crit avoid, hell, whatever we can think of. Let's do it.
Okay. And then so protections was the very first thing you said. We're currently in patch 084. Patch 085 is going to be like 2-3 weeks from now. Like we're very close to it.
Yeah.
There might be some people out there who have no idea what you're talking about when you say protections.
I thought I covered it so elemental resistances.
Yes.
Armor.
Oh, you're not talking about like protections, the proper noun.
Jay is a boomer.
I mean, everything. You want me to go into protections that aren't a thing anymore? Sorry.
Well, yeah,
okay,
give us the 10-second overview. What is protections? Why are we talking about this at all?
Protections was the old resistance system. I didn't see this. I was just using the word protections, but protections was the old resistance system where instead of resistances, you stacked protections of certain elements, and then physical was actually armor back then, wasn't it? It was the same thing. And you had necro, void still, and you had a 1-to-1 ratio of each point of protections was the equivalent of 1 HP against that damage type. So if you had 3,000 fire protections, you could take 3,000 fire damage before it hit your HP.
Oh, so your HP wouldn't go down at all before that? Yeah. Okay.
But
so that's I think that's the only layer of defense that is no longer in the game at all, right? Everything else that you mentioned before is
reworked it.
Okay. And now we have this like weird, kind of cool system where enemies penetrate 75 resistance. So it's kind of like you have 0 resistance, but it works out really elegantly in terms of how punishing it is if you don't res cap at like level 100 or so. So we're talking about block, dodge, evasion, everything. I guess evasion is not a thing. We're talking about defenses today. So why are defenses a relevant conversation? Like what is it about it that maybe you do or don't like about the current state of defenses in Last Epoch?
There's like one way to build a character right now that's significantly better than all the others, right? And it involves a very specific, unique shield and a lot of health.
you might,
like for the most part,
you might also wear a certain pair of unique gloves. Pretty good.
A very rare pair of unique gloves. Also very good in combination, I would say.
Come on, Soul Bastion isn't that good.
So this is obviously Bastion of Honor, giving you maximum block chance against nearby enemies, and then the block effect, you just build block effect along with it. And the pair of gloves we're talking about is Ravenous Void, which is I was watching Ziggy D one day, and Ziggy was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go play some Last Epoch," and there's thousands of people watching him in Twitch chat, and he was like, "Hey, Twitch chat, what's the most busted unique item? What's the strongest item in this game?" And Twitch chat said, "Oh, Ravenous Void."
Stole the wound.
No. Okay. he's like Ravenous Void. So Ziggy said, "Oh, Ravenous Void, that sounds cool. What's it do?" And Twitch chat responded by saying, "It makes you take 25% less damage." That's it. That's the most exciting, the most busted, rarest item in the game. It's just 25% damage reduction. That's all it does.
think you right there summed up, like, realistically, what is the biggest problem with defenses right now
And
is
what is
that
it?
just flat damage mitigation is so much stronger than literally everything else put together, basically.
So
Like,
do we
Wings of
need?
Argentus, Bastion of Honor, and Ravenous Void. If you can use all three of those, I think you would literally be immortal to most things in the game.
Would you want to balance up? Like, would you want to take other things in the game and make them stronger so that they are comparable with flat damage reduction? Or do you think damage reduction is just like a bit too strong and should be toned down?
I think we could take the lizard approach and just nerf it all into the ground.
Nerve it. So we've
Like,
talked to
straight
Lizard.
up.
We talked to Lizard IRL recently. He's got a bone to pick, not only with Bastion of Honor, but also with block effectiveness as a whole.
He hates block. He has always hated block.
Block. His perspective on block effect is with the implicit value of Bastion of Honor, along with an 800 roll from the block effect blessing. If you have those two things, which is a relatively very small investment, you have 42% damage reduction, which is just enormous compared to anything else in the game. That's a lot of damage reduction.
One thing I'd like to add here real quick is the funniest part about this is block is only OP when Bastion is involved. Obviously, block is very strong, but like on Sentinel, it requires investment, right?
They got block
on the other classes, yeah, and on the other classes, yeah, and the other classes can barely even build into block, and block is almost non-existent for them unless you're playing a very specific kind of build.
What does building into block mean, though?
I mean, just running block, chance, and effect on your rings and on your gloves.
Oh, you mean wearing a Bastion and that's it?
No, to put into perspective, Perry. So before the block rework, how many patches ago was it? Like 3 patches ago. If you had a Dawn shield, or what was it, a Solarum shield? Sorry, before the rework, with block effectiveness crafted on it on any class other than a paladin, you had 60% block effectiveness. If you were a paladin, you had 80%.
Whoa, hello?
Now you need to actually craft it on like your rings, and actually get a decent shield if you want to not run a Bastion. Like, they did Bastion right with they did block right with the block rework, and then the next patch they introduced Bastion of Honor.
Yeah, like
and it
block
just
is strong.
Skewed it.
Like block is insanely strong, but it's only strong if you actually invest into it. Now.
Yeah.
Other than Bastion, obviously, and that's the problem. Is it's a one-stop shop for all you need. That plus the block effectiveness blessing is all you need to make a Bastion really good.
When they first introduced like sealing into the game, like sealed affixes on your gear, I was really looking forward to sealing tier 1 modifiers and feeling good about it. It's like sealing the -3 mana cost of throwing skills prefix. I thought that was gonna be like a really neat use of sealing stuff. Sealing like tier 3 hybrid life, because at tier 3 it bumps up to like 4% increased life instead of 5. It's really nice. Or like sealing tier 2 block effectiveness. I thought that was going to be something that was very, very common to do, because tier 2 it should be relatively easy to seal it, but then you also get like +2 block chance. And getting that on, ring, glove should be a very strong way of building a layer defense. But like when you have a shield, you have Bastion, and when you have a Bastion, you don't need anything. It's like the whole interesting part's gone.
Exactly.
Well,
100%.
Technically, you can run the beautiful thing about Bastion is you can run all the block effect suffixes and still get benefits out of it, because not only one, you're not 100% block chance against ranged enemies, which is what will kill you if you're playing a Bastion build, and 2, you also still get block effect on them too. So even in the case where it's like, oh, like we can invest into all this for regular block, well, it's like you can just do that for Bastion too. It's like you could do the same thing and it'd be just as strong, if not stronger.
I'm worried that if I don't interrupt us right now, we're going to talk about Bastion for the next hour. There was something else.
You're not wrong.
There was something else that you brought up at the very beginning of today's podcast. It was something about a potion, maybe a belt prefix. What was that?
So dodge used to be like, balanced around the fact that you could get a good solid flat 500 to 800 dodge on your belt. Like on potion use, that's how dodge used to be, balanced around. The problem is they removed that prefix, but then they left dodge how it is. And it's like, well, now the only time you play dodge is kind of like armor, where you get a bunch of flat dodge or percentage dodge outside of gearing. Like you never gear for dodge anymore. Like you don't run dodge on your amulet, you don't run dodge anywhere. Even with the ceiling system, you don't run dodge still because it's just not worth it, because dodge is non-existent outside of specific, things like cough, surf and strike, cough. Like there are certain things that do dodge, but like that's it.
I actually have a idea. I say an idea. I stole it from another game, and like one thing that I think could really help dodge, because like Dread's saying right now, for the most part, you don't run dodge, but because running around with 800 HP and 80% chance to dodge, when you do eventually get hit, you just fucking die, right? If you're like not running any health on your gear, just going full dodge, you just die that one time you don't dodge. But so a very popular ARPG called Path of Exile that I think Perry might have played before had this really good keystone called Wind Dancer that they nerfed a while ago. And it was like, if you haven't been hit recently, I think it was 40% reduced damage on the
Something
next
like
hit.
that. Yeah, it
Right?
reminds me of a unique chess piece as well in that game called
Yeah.
Kintsugi.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there was some way to get that in last Epoch, I think that single-handedly might like kind of push dodge up to more comparable levels of like EHP versus, or not even EHP, but just consistency in comparison to just going Bastion and like full HP builds, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of like whenever we talk about mage, we think about like, hey, what are some interesting, cool things we could add into mage to make it feel like a more well-rounded class, like not just crit everything. And sometimes we come back to elemental overload, and like there are these keystones. There's like these simple keystones that Path of Exile has. There's a lot of complicated stuff in that game, but just the simple stuff is like, hey, they really hit on something when they introduced alley overload as a way to make like tanky spellcasters that don't necessarily need crit. They've got some damage and it's just enough to get by. And like Wind Dancer is another just like great little keystone that kind of ties the room together. Like you have some dodge, but if you get hit once, you're not just dead. If you get hit once, you want to run away. You want to let the 2 or 3 or 4 seconds refill so that you can like get the Wind Dancer effect again, reduce damage taken if you haven't been hit recently. But yeah, just those little simple things. I'm with you. I like it.
Like Rogue basically has it, right? With what is it? Is it Dusk Shroud? Like basically does the same thing where like
Glancing
gives you
blow and spell suppression are pretty much exactly the same thing, except of course, glancing blow works for all hits.
yeah.
Well, it's kind of like
But, like-
perfection, I suppose. Perfection is like you lose all your stacks of perfection if you have
Yeah.
been hit. And that's
Exactly.
the nodes in the top right on the second half of the Blade Dancer skill tree that we're talking about.
It's like they have the tech. It is there. It's just putting all the numbers together, right, to make it work.
Yeah,
And I
Druid
mean-
has that with the things at the upper right that like
Yeah,
give
what's
them
it called?
stacks
Is
of
it-
DR.
Hold on, let me whip up the
Yeah.
planner. I'll take a look.
Oh yeah, those
I
are
know
relatively
exactly
new.
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally the same thing. Yeah,
It's like if they
it's
gave
literally
that
the same thing.
Impervious.
class,
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
Impervious, yeah, there you go. If there was just a way to get that, like, on more dodge builds, it might incentivize you to run it. Or would you just run it on a Bastion build to stop those really big chunky hits from killing you, like every now and then? Is the problem with something.
All right,
like
let's go down the rabbit hole for just a moment here. If we were going to add impervious for other classes as well, would it be on a unique item? Would it be
Yeah,
on
I think it would have
affix?
to be
Would it be
unique.
like an amulet prefix or what?
It should be a class affix.
You
It should
think?
fight. It should fight with other class affixes and other prefixes. Like it should fight for your helmet prefix, and it should fight for your, and it should be its own. Like for rogue, it should just be like a shroud. You know how like we have all these shrouds. It should be, or if anything, it could literally be 5% chance to gain like a silver shroud on hit. Like it could be anything. All right. Like
Yeah.
stuff like that would be cool. Now my problem, like I have 2 problems with the removal of dodge. 2.
Dodge
So,
potion specifically, or just
well,
in
just
general?
just the downplay of dodge, but that is part of it.
Yeah.
The first problem is back in the day when dodge potion used to be around. I remember, and I think Jay remembers this too, gearing was way more interesting
Yeah.
because you'd get a dodge potion and you'd either just use that dodge potion or you could invest into more dodge or like on your amulet dodge percentage, and that would be really strong with ceiling right now because that would be like an insane way of using it. Like you get dodge on your chest, dodge on your boots. That would, like, it was another layer on top of everything else you could do. And it's not like as if, like, it was overpowered, don't get me wrong, but it felt like, you know how like Lizard always talks about like how he wants power to come from gear? That's that dodge potion and being able to run dodge, because you only run dodge when you have the room for it. You can't run dodge if you're, you know, trying to run like HP everywhere. But if you have plenty of HP and you just simply want to have more, you know, layers of defense, dodge potion is the perfect thing to do. So
Bless you.
the biggest problem is it just stripped away some of the complexity of gearing that we used to have. With protections, we had complexity. With you know, we what the only problem I'm having with this is they keep taking back complexity of gearing, and it's becoming just run hybrid health, idiot. You know, like that's pretty much what it is right now. Just run hybrid health everywhere you can, and then whatever else you can shove in. Back in the day, like Mao, for instance, before Bastion was added, this Bastion and Dodge Potion were removed / added in the same patch. Like I completely agree with Mal in this regard. I felt that Dodge Potion was more fun, fair, and interesting to use than just slapping a Bastion on, right? In my opinion.
Was there rationale that the developers provided for the removal of the gain 500 dodge on potion use?
It was too
Too
strong.
strong. It was
Too
literally
strong.
Just too strong. So they've said in the past like they don't. I think they've said in the past that they don't want potions to be something that you spam like you used to do in Path of Exile.
Cough, cleanse potion, cough.
There's one
right,
button.
true.
You're not pianoing flasks. You're pressing one button.
Every 4
it was
seconds.
really cool to be able to craft your own potion, and I really think instead of getting rid of dodge potion, they should have just added it into the game. You know, like how all these games, like sometimes they like make a mistake accidentally, but then it's like really ends up being really good and resonates with the player base, and they add it in as a feature instead. That's what dodge potion should have been. That's what ignite potion. They should have added armor potion, poison potion, like a potion that gives you less damage over time taken if you used a potion. They should have allowed you to make your own potion, because in Path of Exile you run 5 potions. In Last Epoch you just have 1 potion you gotta make, and that's way less annoying. And right now, like, what do you put on your prefix for belts? What do you put on your prefix, guys? Tell me.
I go cleanse, and then I don't worry about the other one because I'm more concerned with getting health on the suffixes.
And you only want
That's
tier 1
class I'm
cleanse.
playing, though,
You don't
too.
even need. Yeah.
Like if I'm playing a paladin, I don't need cleanse on my belt. I've got holy ore with cleanse on it, so I don't
Or
need
elemental
it on there.
damage over time. That is the only stat that is important.
Yeah.
Now, it was interesting to have that kind of stuff because, especially with like Ignite builds, because some Ignite builds would have problems. They would be like, well, I want to run elemental damage over time, but I also want to run an Ignite potion, but I also want to run Dodge potion. Well, that would have been fixed this patch if you could
Sealed
just seal.
affixes.
Yeah.
But then what if you also want cleanse? That's all of a sudden 4 prefixes.
Yeah,
You know,
and that would have been. Wait,
That's
that's
meaningful
good.
choice.
That's literally good. Like, oh no, there's a problem. Yes, we
That's
like
meaningful
problems.
choice right there.
Yes.
I like that.
When there's an
Definitely.
opportunity cost, it's interesting because you get to make a choice about whether you want to be good or bad or offensively oriented or defensively, or maybe just skip cleanse and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Speaking of the fox suffix, and the only reason I know what it is like, I guess I've looked it up too many times, but the of the fox suffix is the percent increased dodge rating on what amulet, body armor, belt, boots, I think is the 4 places that it rolls. And finding out where these prefixes and suffixes roll in your gear, and then prioritizing those and trying to play like the shuffle of like where these affixes go, that's interesting. And that is awesome. It's a really good part of Last Epoch. What you're saying of putting, of having a paradigm where dodge is important and you can get percent dodge on suffixes would be a good thing. It'd be a really good thing, because then it fights for spots with the other suffixes.
The problem is just what Path of Exile went through recently, where they pretty much removed dodge whatsoever, right? Like just completely removed it. And in my opinion, after playing it for a while, the game is a lot more healthy that way. But it's weird in Last Epoch because dodge was never really that, like, it was very strong, but like for arena. Like, obviously, like in boss fights, it'd be kind of strong. Like T4 Jirla, it wouldn't be strong at all. You die to dots more than anything. Like, if you're playing a T4 Jirla build, like, most of the time you're going to die because you made a mistake and stand in a dodge. In a dot. Dodge doesn't do shit for that. So it's like, whatever, right?
Worth noting that she has abilities that ignore dodge as well. But yeah,
exactly. Same thing. Yeah. And that's what should have been dodge should be counteracted by mechanics like that, obviously, so it's not just OP. Like, Oribus should have abilities that make it so you can't dodge. Like, there should be stuff like that. But now, this brings the second reason why I hated the whole thing about dodge, is when they removed dodge potion, they pretty much removed dodge from the game. And why is that? Well, this leads into armor as well. Why do we never build flat armor or flat dodge on gear? We used to run flat dodge on gear. What happened? What happened was the flat values of dodge, flat, not percentage. Percentage is fine. It's the flat dodge went down and flat armor went down. Same thing with armor. But the skills that give you flat dodge and flat armor went up. So you get all your flat dodge and armor from your skills. You know why every single Sentinel runs sigils? It's not for the damage, which is nice. It's because they get an extra, 1,600 armor for free for running sigils flat. That can be increased by stuff like, Forge Guard and stuff like that. And, now Throne of Ambition, right? So it's like, what's the point in gearing all of these defenses if you can just use your skills to gain them? And this is another thing that Lizard brought up as well, is the same thing with the gearing thing. It's like, power should come from your gear. Skills should help you, affect that. But the problem is, have you ever put an armor flat roll on your gear and actually felt good about it, Perry, Jay?
Have you ever intentionally done it? No.
There you go.
No.
Nope.
I've sealed affixes a couple times because, I guess, sure, I'll take it, but man, it is never worth to actually craft on it. I must have literal thousands upon thousands of flat armor and flat dodge shards.
What about using the right bases? Like, some bases have 5 armor as the implicit, and some have 400 armor as the implicit. Do you all gear intending to use those best bases whenever possible?
Well, okay, this is actually that's a good question, because I want to say yes, but no, not really. Do you? I mean, you do to an extent, but a lot of your gearing as well, especially for implicits, comes down to what resistances you need. So things like boots, it's oh well, do I need cold or fire res? If you need no res from your boots, then yeah, you run Solarum Greaves for the highest armor, right?
But are you going to run Solarum Greaves with tier 5 hybrid life, or are you going to run the lowest level boot that has exalted hybrid life and tier 5 vitality?
You definitely, probably in that case, go for the life, right? Because
right. It's I have okay, I'm losing 100 armor, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I have good example. Even on my paladin, who I have crap loads of armor on that character, but I was using Shrine Boots for a while because they gave me more HP, and it was only 2% less armor compared to Solarum Greaves, the highest armor. That's the lowest versus the highest armor base in the game. Like,
So,
I gained more HP or more EHP by getting 200 more flat HP from the Shrine Boots, you know?
So I brought this up. I did something with the planner. I took a Primalist and I gave him all of the best bases for armor and then gave him T5 armor in every slot. And it legitimately has less flat armor than you would get from using sigils.
There's a better armored chest piece, but good job, Red. Also,
I mean,
there's
why would you
actually-
want to use that one when you could use the movement speed one? Let's be
Also,
real.
there's a better shield for armor.
Well, yeah, but if you're gonna use a shield, you'd rather use that one.
This guy makes build videos for a living, guys.
I'm trying to like
No,
that,
is
I'm
he-
being realistic. These are the kind of these are
I'm
the
just
kind of
trolling, man, you know.
these are the items you'd be wearing in a realistic situation. But yeah, it's like
Dread finished planner build.
1,200 armor for T5 affixes of armor on every single affix I have.
Wait. What was the number you just said? 1,200?
1,200, yes.
1,200. If you make the correct choice and use the right things for, it's like if you ignore all the utility and movement speed and you
Yeah.
just go for the biggest armor, 1,238.
Yeah. 1,223. Yeah. And that's like
Wow.
400 less than sigils. You see what we're getting at? It's like flat armor is actual garbage. It's because flat armor before the protections were removed were never adjusted. Same with dodge. Were never adjusted after they changed protections and now we have physical resistance and armor and all that.
Yeah.
So these values were okay back then. Now they're just useless and it's just something they need to eventually update. And that's where this problem comes from. Why removing dodge potion was such a big deal, because it was the last amount of complexity that we had with gearing. Now it is literally just, if you look at almost every single one of my build guides I've played, it gets to the point where I'm like, hybrid health everywhere,
Yeah.
hybrid health, increased health. And it's like, cool. I don't get me wrong, I like health. Health is way more healthy than the protection meta ever was.
It's a simple
But
system. People
The
understand it.
protection meta was cool.
it was cool. That's what I'm saying, is I want the complexity, and if we had more access to these kind of things, it would be better.
Man, the fact that you only get 2 suffixes and 2 prefixes, like your damage stuff, but the fact that you only get 2 suffixes on all your pieces of gear, I really like the prefix and suffix system of last Epoch. I like how constrained it is. Like, if you're putting 1 affix on, that's half your fucking choice. That's half of your choice done already.
Yeah.
Like, you only get 2 choices for suffixes. You better make them as impactful as possible.
There's a handful of items in last Epoch that I think are like genuinely boring for gearing, right? And those are like
Go on.
currently like belt, boots, and probably helmet, I would say, maybe, but like for some classes that's different, right? Because like you have some good class specific affixes.
I'm surprised you didn't say glove, belt, boot, because glove, belt, boot are the same. All the slots with hybrid life on them.
Just finished it with, and gloves to an extent, lesser extent, I think, because like I like what they did with the melee leech and leech rate on gloves now. I think that's actually pretty cool.
I agree with you.
But yeah, belt and boots specifically are so fucking boring. Like, no matter what build you're playing, tell me right now, what are you rolling on your boots and belt?
They all look
HP.
exactly the same. Yep,
Exactly
they all look the same. Your belt has 1 flex spot in it, or sorry, your boot has 1 flex suffix.
Yeah.
That you could feel okay not having flat life on it. It's okay.
And even then, you're just gonna slam flat life if you get the chance, anyways.
Absolutely.
Along with hybrid life.
Yep. You make 1 good pair of boots, and you just either rune of creation it, or you just switch it between characters until you're done, right? Until you make another good pair of boots.
I am a very bad example of this, because that is exactly what I did. I got the best pair of Solarum Greaves I've ever seen. It had T5 Vitality, T5 movement speed, T5 hybrid, and then like T6 flat HP and Solarum Greaves, and I literally swap it in between every single character I own that I play that can use them, if they're not, obviously using unique boots, because it is that synonymous with everything. Remember back in the day, Jay, when we used to have sets like Res sets and stuff like
Fucking loved
that?
set protections, dude.
Remember
Set
how you
protection,
could
set
just
glancing blow, set crit avoid. All of that was great.
remember how you could just swap them from in between everything?
Yep.
It's
What-
the same thing here.
Just in case we haven't been playing the game for 2 years. What's a set? Set what?
Set protections. It was. Oh, we don't have any set stuff in the game anymore, do we? Like
No,
that.
they got
So
rid
you
of
used to have
it.
set affixes, which was it additive or multiplicative together?
Oh, it was exponential. So what would happen is if you had two affixes that gave you 20 flat elemental protection, they would
multiply together, wouldn't they?
to 40 and then 40. If you had three,
Yeah.
it would be 60, 60, 60, and then so on and so forth. Because
Okay.
each one would give you an amount per one you had.
Yeah. And like you would just stack the ever living crap out of this, and that, in my opinion, felt really good because it meant if you were investing in a character in your gear, the min max of the set protections, getting that on as many slots as possible. Some people would consider it boring, I get that. But getting those set protections on the pieces of gear you could, so like your rings, your gloves, could you get it on your boots? You could definitely get your helmet. You could get it on
You
your
get the
amulet.
set on the
You could get it on
prefix,
your
yeah.
relic. That's what made you tanky. You actually literally felt every single like extra T5 set affix, getting all those extra protections.
And they also shared your prefixes with all your damage rolls too.
Yeah, it was huge, and it was a good like actual like you had a choice, right, between do I desperately need more elemental protections on this build? Like some builds, like Paladin and Forge Guard, could get absolutely crap loads of set elemental protections, but really struggled with necrotic and like physical and not really void because Orion's Eye was cracked back then. But you had sorry, I'm going a little bit off, but you had conversions as well, specifically for Sentinel, which were actually good. Every time you see like a helmet that's like 40% the necrotic damage taken as physical, that was actually really good back then because it was very difficult to get lots of necrotic protections on a Sentinel.
What would need to be nerfed or removed from the game in order to have set affixes back in the game? Is there an easy answer to that question, or is it more complicated?
I don't think it needs to be in the game again.
No, it just doesn't really fit anymore.
I think it's just less of what it was and more of what it stood for. What we're talking about is like, of course, we're going to bring up Blizzard's name again because this is his opinion, and I share this opinion with him. Is the protection system, saying with Jay and I agree, it added a lot of complication to gearing that was not there. That is not there now, right? Like there was multiple layers of gearing, and you actually took the time to gear, but now you just get HP on your gear and you're good to go. Like you know how like easy it is to like gear up in like a weekend tourney, Perry.
Yes.
It was not like that before. It was not like that at all. No, it was not. It was not. Like getting your set glancing blow set up and all that, like it was a pain. And
sorry, not going.
No, and the game was fun that way. The problem was the system was so broken. It was being broken every single patch. It was like Ward was OP, then Protections was OP, then Ward was OP again, and then Protections were OP again. They like would change sides, right? And instead of balancing the system that they had, they're like, screw it, we're just going to be Path of Exile, which is fine. Now, the problem is Path of Exile's resistance system is interesting because the existence of maximum resistances, right? The problem is we don't have that. That would be that layer of complexity is maximum resistances or something of that ilk. Like it doesn't have to be like that. Like it could be whatever, right? Like Exalted T6 Fire Res could say it could give you flat fire and then give you less fire damage taken. Or
That would
something
actually
like
be
that.
cool.
No, it'd be the
Getting, like,
opposite of the cursed ring prefix.
yeah,
Which is
it
like the
wouldn't- it
throwing
wouldn't
fire
have to be
damage and increased
max
fire damage
res,
taken.
but something like that.
Yeah,
that would
I mean,
actually be
so
awesome.
max res obviously wouldn't be very good just because of how the resistance system is in Last Epoch.
Yeah.
But like less
Well,
damage
it could
taken.
be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Like so, you would never wear exalted fire damage, right? I like this idea. You would never pick up an item that has like exalted fire damage suffix.
Fire res, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what did I say?
Damage.
You said fire damage. We
Eh,
meant
whatever.
res, yeah.
Who
Can I
plays
just-
fire damage builds? But
Sorry,
for
can I just say
exalted
real
fire
quick?
resistance, having something extra for the tier 6 or tier 7, I'm into it. I like it.
Because it hasn't been mentioned yet, I wanted to say, I think the reason I liked the older system with the set protections versus our current meta, which is just stack life on everything, you can stack life on everything, right? Whereas the way set protections worked, you were picking and choosing where you were putting it on your gear, right? There were actual meaningful choices being made. Like, sure, you wanted to stack as much as possible, but you weren't just putting it absolutely on everything because it's all you could do, right? Which is how I feel we are in the current meta. You literally put hybrid HP and, if you can, flat HP on every single piece of gear, and then run a Bastion.
Like, you remember that conversation we had about how, like, I remember you and I specifically had that, Perry, about how increased damage was insanely strong because you could just throw it on a ring, like double increased damage prefixes.
Mm-hmm.
That used to be a choice. You used to choose between damage or the,
Or the
or
set
the,
protections.
yeah, it's either you were a protection build and
It was a prefix?
Yes, it was a prefix.
Oh, okay.
They were
okay.
all
I thought it was a
prefixes.
suffix, I guess.
You could actually
Some
get
were
protections on your
suffixes.
two-handed weapons as well as
Huh,
suffixes.
And that's when two-handed weapons were actually worth a damn.
Like,
I wish that I wanted to use a two-handed weapon and get like +10 to all attributes. If I want that. I mean, I don't, but I want to.
Like, imagine if you put on a two-handed weapon and on the suffix, it just gave you like 500 flat armor. Or like, it
Yes!
just gave you something like that.
I
Like-
had a legacy sword. I might have a screenshot of it. Let me see if I
Run
can
a
find it.
two-handed sword, you get like
It had
500
64
flat
early
dodge on the
procs.
suffix.
It
Yeah.
just
That's
gave me
sweet.
64 elemental res just for wielding the two-handed sword, you know?
Two-handed wand, or I mean two-handed staff just gives you like 100 ward per second. I don't know. They could easily
Sure.
do that kind of stuff.
I kind of like it. We're close to a conversation that I wanted to circle back to. We were talking about armor values that would roll on your gear, like as the implicit value. So I wanted to pull these two up. There's two body armors that I guess there's one that you try to use, and then one that you may be okay with as a sentinel. And the one that you'd like to use is a Solarum plate. It's got 350 flat armor, and it also has up to 35 crit avoidance. The other one is a Dawn plate that only has armor on it. So the Solarum is 350, and the Dawn is 400. So my question is there a number where you would be happy to use a Dawn plate over a Solarum?
Double that.
Double 800?
Yes.
Jay, what
Double
about
that.
you?
Yeah, I feel like the crit avoidance is valued just too highly, right? Because you want to be critical
Or
capped on literally
or
every
they'd
single
have
food
to
you're buying.
nerf flat. They'd have to nerf flat armor values on skills. Like, what I would like them to see them do if they were to do this, I would like them to nerf every single amount of flat stats you possibly could get through your skills, like flat armor, flat dodge, flat whatever, right? But make it so that when you put the affixes on your gear, they're not complete shit.
So you want instead of using Serpent Strike and getting flat dodge per Serpent Strike in the past 4 seconds, you want to nerf that and then take like a dodge ring implicit and like times 10?
Or take, or just swap it around. Like, for instance, you know how like dodge percentage is like the focus on all your gear when you're like doing dodge potion? Just flip it around. Make it so you get increased armor and increased dodge from all these skills. So then those are the affixes that have diminishing returns. So of course you'd want them on the skills, And then you want the flat values to be on your gear because they're fixed, they're finite, they can never go. That's why when you play Serpent Strike, it's so OP, is because you get infinite amounts of flat dodge, and then you just run like 1 or 2% rolls of dodge on your gear, and bam, you're at dodge cap. It's that easy. So
it's worth mentioning you also have flat from Maelstrom, and you have percent built into your skill tree in your mastery.
Well, if you're playing Beastmaster, yeah.
Sure.
So basically, you want to bring power back to gear rather than the skills, which I'm all for.
Well,
Stuff
This,
like that.
this is very
not-
similar
not
to our
just
Lizard
power.
IRL conversation.
Not just power, right? Like power is Bastion, power is Ravenous Void. I don't want just power, I want complexity back.
Yeah, definitely. True.
He wants the choices to make an impact whenever you're deciding on what to do with your shit, and not just fucking throwing damn skill on there because it gives you, the dodge.
Or like Holy Aura, which basically caps your resistances and gives you endurance, right? Like,
Which
I
is
feel like
pretty strong.
Yeah, skills like that, or it gives you the cleanse as well, like that. Why even bother running a cleanse belt, kind of thing?
Remember when they changed Holy Aura from giving you a bunch of Elirez to just give you Elirez and endurance, and they said that it was a nerf? Remember
it used
that?
to give poison res, but like this is literally just a buff.
Yeah, it's like free endurance.
Good job. No. You took away the bad part of Holy Aura.
What they could do as well.
More cracked.
This somewhat kind of exists right now, but like obviously they could help it a little bit. So right now you can get a bunch of flat endurance threshold if you really go hard on it with like exalted rolls. Now there are certain builds like the mom sorcerer builds that would like to cap their endurance threshold to their HP and just run endurance, right? And then just run more EHP. Back in the day, in last Epoch, that was the thing. That was it. People were running around with Sentinels with 500 flat HP, and that's why Leech is so OP right now. By the way, it's because of that change. But that was how it was. I want the ability to do that, or do the other thing. I want to be able to do both, but I also don't want to have to run T6 endurance threshold everywhere too. Because the problem is,
you go ahead.
Oh, the problem is you get so much flat HP when you level now and on the skill tree that it's like hard to meet them. And now with the more HP you have, the more endurance threshold you get, it's just better just to run HP instead.
There's some breakpoint. I think the number is 20%. But it's something like as long as you have at least 20% increased health across your entire character, HP is better than endurance threshold. Like if for some reason you just don't have any percent life, then yeah, endurance threshold has value. But like I would never intentionally build endurance threshold. Not unless I was playing like, those mind over matter, damage taken from mana before health builds.
Is it really that little? That's crazy, because like I said, there's literally basically every class gets 20% increased health on their mastery tree. So yeah, there's basically never a reason to run endurance.
What they could do is they could nerf the amount of endurance percentage we get on gear and everywhere, so that it's harder to reach the endurance cap, but then raise the endurance cap to like 70 or 80, right? So it's really hard to get to 80. Most builds get to like 60 and feel fine. But some builds, if you really wanted to, you can get to 80% endurance percentage, and all of a sudden, all that endurance threshold you're building feels better than HP in that situation. But it's expensive because you have to run endurance percentage everywhere.
Let's make sure that we're talking about like all the defenses here. You mentioned the damage taken from mana before health and like why endurance threshold is strong on a build like that. Could you give us like a 2-minute explanation or like why that is?
It's a good one.
So the reason why that's so strong is because currently, so in Path of Exile, when you run Mom, you get like 40% Mom. Pretty much 40% of your damage is taken to mana before HP. Now in Path of Exile, it's easier to get your mana bar to meet your, because usually to be efficient, you want your mana bar to be 40% of what your life is, right? So for instance, if you have like 4,000 life, and if you're taking 40% of life as mana, you want like, I think it's like 1,600 mana, something like that, close to 2,000 mana, right, to be safe. The problem is in last Epoch, HP scales so much quicker than mana, even on Sorcerer, that it is better for you if you're running Mom to run Endurance and Endurance Threshold, which keeps your max HP low, but it keeps your EHP close to the same. It's not as good, but then it enables Mom to work for you because instead of having 3000 HP and 500 mana, which if you took like 50% of mana as damage, it would suck because you'd take 1000 damage and bam, you'd be out of mana. Nobody wants that, right? Well, instead, you could go to 1200 HP and then have like 800 mana or 600 mana, and then it would feel so much better at that point.
And then if you're below endurance threshold, like that, the damage reduction from endurance does apply to the damage that's taken from your mana as well. So if your endurance threshold's really good, you're just like kind of double dipping.
Yeah, Amarafi did it a while ago. He made a mana tank, and I didn't know this worked. This is crazy. If your endurance threshold is higher than your HP value, then it actually applies to the mana as well. Like when you get hit with Mom.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the 60% endurance on the 40% of damage taken to mana.
I think it does that anyways. I don't think you need I don't think you need endurance threshold over your life for that.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Okay.
Hands
well,
up
what he
here.
means is it happens all the time instead of just being
there you go.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, rather than
it's
just being at
always an
endurance
effect.
threshold, you can have it always applying so that you're barely taking damage basically.
If you
It's
don't know
absolutely
why
insane.
endurance was added into the game, it was because back in the olden days, about a year ago or half, when the protection nerf came and they removed them and they added resistances, builds were going from 90 to 95% resistance all the way down to 75%. And Lizard did I know we keep bringing him up, but he does a lot of this testing. He showcased that before the patch, you would take like 20 from the same mob, 20 damage from the same mob, and then you'd go to the same mob the next patch, you'd take like 120 because the difference in resistance. Because obviously, the closer you get to 100, like in Path of Exile, the better your damage reduction is, right? It's I don't know what the word for it is. What is the word for it? Like the closer you get to 100% resistance in PoE, the
diminish your returns.
Well, it's like that, but it's the opposite, right? Because it gets better. Because if you get like 5% extra from 75 to 80, it's better than like it's better because it's giving you 20% less damage instead of just 5% more res, right? Well, because of that, people are getting stunned all the time. Like you'd get stunned, but like something would sneeze on you and you'd get stunned because the stun formula never changed, and it never has changed, by the way.
Stun is fine.
Stun is fine, yeah. Stun is fine, by the way. But yeah, what happens is you get hit and you take a bigger amount of HP damage than before, which stun was balanced for the protection system. Like back in the protections, Jay, when you got stunned, did it feel like as though you deserved to be stunned?
If you get stunned, you were dead, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now you get stunned all the time, and it's like because you took 200 damage from a March Beetle.
Yeah.
It's like it's ridiculous.
Actually, though.
And
White mob stunning.
endurance was the answer to that, and then they had to nerf endurance threshold, and then now it's just this. Where now it's just part of the EHP calculation at this point. It's not even doing its intended purpose of avoiding stuns, like helping you avoid stuns, because guess what? They still stun you very easily. Like, we're not saying that you shouldn't get stunned. We're saying that if you get stunned, it should be because a desecrated flesh like smacks his rock in your face. You shouldn't be getting stunned because a raptor came up and like punched you. Like you shouldn't be stunned for that. You should be stunned for when you actually take a decent portion of your life. Maybe the stunt mechanic should, actually work. I don't know. I'm very jaded about this, and Jay is just as jaded as I am.
Stun is ridiculous, man. It's more just the fact that the developers have literally said that they don't think stun is an issue.
Well, it's because in 300 corruption monoliths, that's when the problems start. Or in really high arena, that's like when the problems start.
What killed you in your most recent push, Perry? In the tourney? No? It's what killed Lizard. Okay. Well, yeah, but still. Ish.
Wait a second. Wait, is this because someone didn't listen to another person about how a very specific spear would allow your minions to literally outlive you or something?
I was muted for just a moment, so let me clarify what I just responded to. You'd asked me what did I play most recently, what did I die to? I was playing a minion build where my minions were the source of damage. They should have stayed alive. And I was around wave 250 in the arena, and my minions were surviving for about 5 seconds at a time. Dred, it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually was using the lethal concentration. Yes. I was using a lethal concentration.
Send me a planner of what you're using then.
I will happily discuss my build with you after this podcast is done. My minions were dealing poison damage. They had 8% poison damage leeches health. They were surviving for about 5 seconds at a time. So what did I die to? Having no source of damage is what I died to.
Just saying, chat. You couldn't kill T3 Julra.
Oh yeah, I literally could not kill tier 3 Julra.
Oh man. Okay, one more thing before we really get into this. Can we talk about glancing blows?
Oh, you've got a topic and I've got a topic? Okay, we might go over an hour for this one.
Okay, you first, Perry. It's your podcast.
Ooh, okay, how about I would like to talk about Ward.
Oh, that's a good one. I want to
talk about
gamer.
I want to talk about
Sign me up.
I want to talk about Ward retention, and working Ward into your builds.
Okay.
Is Ward retention a bait?
No.
You don't think so?
No, definitely not.
Intelligence stacking for ward retention is, yeah.
Yeah.
Intelligence. I like builds that generate a small amount of ward consistently. If I can generate 500 ward every couple seconds, I think that's really good.
Have you played Shatterstrike? You would like Shatterstrike.
I don't play Shatterstrike.
Shatterstrike's
that's 100,000 ward. It's boring.
You were talking. No, it's not. It's not. Especially if you play crit.
Oh, you want me to play a bad build?
Exactly. No, because it does damage. Okay, it does damage. Crit Shatterstrike does gigadam, but then again, so does the cold dot version. Jesus Christ, Shatterstrike actually being good is oh man, I fucking love it. Being a Spellblade gamer is great.
All right, tell me about Ward. What are your thoughts on it? If I say good Ward build, what comes to mind?
Oh man, there's actually multiples right now. Okay, so you can have, like I said, just Shatterstrike Spellblade is like the OG. You can either play it as crit and it's kind of mediocre, or you can play it as cold dot and it is absurd, like 10, 20k ward kind of numbers. You can play Spriggan with summon crows for the healing. If you stack healing effectiveness and convert the healing to ward, and then you can go low life and use your favorite unique, Twisted Heart, and you're constantly popping yourself back down into low life. Your crows heal you. You get massive amounts of ward, easy 10k plus kind of thing, and that's just with Exanguinous and stuff. No HP on gear. And then kind of more hybrid builds, you can play Manifest Armor and use Vessel of Strife is a really good way of doing it, because that build usually you stack health regen anyway. You've got sigils with sealed affixes, it's even more cracked, and that is another, you can get 1, 2k, 3k with really good gear ward, just on top of having 2 to 2500 HP. So there's so many good ward builds at the moment. Ward hasn't been good in the entire time I've played until now. I have wanted to play Ward for a long time, and I think we're in a good Ward is in a good spot finally, but it's all unique based.
Yeah, you were mentioning hitting fast and hard with Shatterstrike, generating ward on hit. You talked about Twisted Heart of Icaros, which is an incredible item. I love it. You talked about Vessel of Strife, the unique relic that comes from Tier 4 Julra. What about Exsanguinous? How is Exsanguinous these days?
Exsanguinous is good for like a handful of builds, like specifically with Twisted Heart and like Crows. It can really pop off.
Well,
but
Crows
it's super
means
niche.
you're a Primalist, and Primalist means you get the passive. What's
Yeah.
it called? Berserker for 25% less damage taken. Can you
25?
use
I think it's 30.
can you use an Exsanguinous without something like Death's Door from a Blade Dancer or Berserker from Primalist? Does it work on other classes?
Yeah, you could do it on there was a build, there's a low life, is it low life Wraiths, I think you can do as a, is it a Necro? It might be a Lich, and that gets like silly amounts of ward, but it's like one of those builds that is low-key super unethical and probably not the kind of thing you want to showcase to the community.
No, you're talking about the zombie loop. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're zombieing, you could have a garbage bag for a chest piece.
You could definitely do it on. This is something I've wanted to try with Twisted Heart. Is cold dot Storb, like converting Static Orb to cold and doing cold dot. But this is again going back to the whole ward is gear dependent. One of the reasons it works with Shatter Strike is because of the gloves. Is it Frostbite Shackles?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I feel like Exsanguinous is more. You think it would be the thing that enables the low life, but it's more just a supporting item to the low life. Like, because hell, even with the Spriggan build, sure you're using the Exsanguinous to get there, but realistically, it's all Twisted Heart and Crows doing the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could probably even play it without. Maybe, I don't know. That might be a bit much, but like, I don't know. I think Exsanguinous is maybe the weakest out of the low life supporting uniques right now. And Last Steps of the Living, I mean, the best low life builds of Frostbite right now because of Frostbite Shackles being stupid.
Which means they're using the Snowdrift boots instead of Last Step of the Living.
So like that unique is kind of just off the table for the most part. Although Lizard used them in his most recent push on in the Primos tourney, going low life. What did he play? Low life Upheaval Crow.
Low life crit staff
Beastmaster.
Upheaval. I love it.
Oh, what a fucking meme! That should show you though how good low life is currently, and ward that you can do something like that. If somebody came to me with that last patch, I would be like, "Is that a?" Okay, I'm not gonna make that joke, but I would just be like, "That's a fucking meme build."
But like you can't do that build. So Lizard this past week in the Beastmaster tournament, he played Upheaval, crit staff, used an Exsanguinous. He used Good Berries, the ward from the Crows, and then he also used what's the other thing?
Last Steps of the Living.
Last Steps of the Living. Like everything that we named there, the birds are like maybe the most important part.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like
definitely.
the other parts there, like they're like they exist, they're there, but that's not why it's good.
Nah.
Oh yeah, of course. And then like the birds, and then also the fact that he's a primalist and you get, the less damage taken from your mastery. If those supporting features weren't there, the birds weren't there, and if the berserker node and the mastery weren't there, the build would be just all over the place. It'd be bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would just be gutted.
One thing I would like to add too, this is also taking the legendary system into account, and being able to put, HP on your Exsanguinous definitely brings it up a few notches. That is something that is being, disregarded. It's like, well, turns out Exsanguinous isn't bad, because Exsanguinous' problem is it shares the same slot as the best slot for HP, the chest. But now that you can just have the best of both worlds now and have like an increased health roll or HP roll, the reason why Exsanguinous was so bad then is because they gutted the old version, and the new version didn't work really well because you didn't have enough flat HP scaling to make it work. And you didn't have enough ward retention too, i.e. the Frostbite Shackles. But now you do. That's like the thing. It's like they slowly added it back in. Like they completely barbarically removed ward from the game, but they've been slowly adding it back in, and now it's finally there. It's like it exists now.
When I brought up ward, you said that intelligence stacking in order to get ward retention was a trap. But you said ward retention is not a trap. Where do you get ward
Frostbite
retention?
shackles.
All right, there. Now it finally comes out. Okay.
Yeah.
Skill tree, frostbite shackles.
You need 100 intelligence to get the same amount of ward retention that my current Shatterstrike Spellblade has. Just like for having a couple of cold res rolls on my suffixes. Or
well, to be fair, your intelligence also gives you damage
just from one idol. You know?
Well, yeah, and also as well, your intelligence roll doesn't do anything for you other than give you retention. Like,
yeah,
for instance, like, oh boy, I'm using a suffix for cold res that I wasn't gonna use anyways because I'm not slamming as much HP as like a normally. Like, I don't need endurance percentage.
Yeah, I don't need HP. I don't need endurance. What else am I gonna roll there? I've got armor on the places I can have it. The rest it's like cold res, and then you want the freeze rate multi on all your gear because you're using Snowdrift, and that also has cold res.
And exalted cold
implicit.
cold res is better than exalted intelligence in terms of resistance as well. Also, you can get bases that have cold res, specifically on Primeless. You can get it on your boots and your helmet and your no, I don't think you can get it on your amulet, but like on your helmet, you can get cold res there. You can get cold res on your boots. You can get cold res everywhere. You can get cold res on your relic. You get everywhere.
So the Gaspar's helmet has cold res.
We're not going to talk about Gaspar's helmet. The Gaspar, the set helmet is a confirmed.
I don't know if you heard.
It is unintended. They're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about so Spriggan? Like you said, oh, I'm putting it on my gear. My Spriggan has no actual cold res on its gear outside of the freeze rate multi on gear, and it gets almost 500% cold resistances just because it summons totems.
Hey, to be fair, when I tried it, it didn't work. So I did it first. It just didn't work because it was bugged with elemental resistance. Remember that, Jay?
All right.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going way too far down too many rabbit holes. I'm going to pull the plug right here and let you guys know. That's going to be it for us here on Last Week at Epoch. I'd like to thank Jay the Product and EpochBuilds for being here tonight with us. Appreciate you guys being here. And we'll catch you in the next one.